Welcome to Rauta Underground Trio. It's once again the time. Then we go through three different releases from three different styles and three different places of the world. Once again, first we'll go through these in alphabetical order, and then I will be reviewing them in the worst to best order according to my own opinion. And as always, be proud, feel free to disagree. Because obviously different tastes for different folks and all that stuff. The bands in question today are Maul from United States with the album called In the Jaws of Bereavement, old school death metal. Then we have international lineup with Obnoxious Youth. Technically speaking, Sweden and Finland are presented with their third album, Burning Savage. And this is more like a combination of heavy, speed, and black metal with a little bit punk in the mix. And then finally we have Temple of Dread from Germany, God of the Godless. And this is the most experienced bands of these all, given that they have like 5 albums out. Something I have previously touched many times. Now let's shuffle them a bit. Not literally, obviously. And then start talking about in worst to best order. Here we go. First, international waters, or Sweden and Finland, depending how you want to put it. Obnoxious Youth. This is a Svart Records release featuring the guys with the Marshall stacks and having the old school look on the background. And this is a weird combination, to be honest. I get it. This is not for everybody for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's a genre hybrid, which means it's gonna be hard to swallow pill for a lot of people out there. Depending obviously on your background, it might be really a blessing in disguise, or it might be a kind of a curse. Because for certain people, hybrids are refreshing and wow, something new, something original, something unusual in the sense of, finding out about these kind of releases. But for a lot of us, what's happening? For a lot of us, it's just gonna be something that, it's too much of a mess. This is like a bag of mixed goodies, and I'll try to explain why. First of all, let's tackle with the production. That's not the obvious starting point, but it's definitely worth mentioning when we're talking about albums like this. The production is very retro-ish. It's almost like you have to go rewinding back to the 70s to really find about this production values. I mean, it's almost like a retro-ish rock even, rather than outright metal. This means that you go all the way to the bands that are punk and metal combined. Wasn't really surprised when this was listed on Metal Archives as the similar artists like Discharge and all that stuff, which are not exactly the type of bands that you're looking for when you're thinking about early steps of metal. I mean, it doesn't really matter when there are overlapping elements, but let's talk about typical metal, and those are not the bands that usually come up when we're talking about that. Now, once you have figured out, okay, this is very retro in the take of production, the overall sound with guitars and all, okay, it's time to, adjust your brain for whatever the combination of different genres is going to be. And that is where heavy metal comes into play. So you have that heavy metal and punk flirting with one another, almost like staring in the eyes, like, okay, we got the going on, let's get a room after the evening and all that stuff. And they get the room, but it's not gonna be just like 2 people in that particular evening of hot sensational parts, but more like, let's invite more people into the room. So they invite a man called Speed Metal. And obviously, eventually, someone from the black metal joins, and they're gonna have a party of 4 people, raving about. Which puts us into these bags of mixed goodies. So you have black metal vocals, which are then married to heavy metal riffs, which go to sometimes the speed metal department and mix a little bit punk in the mix. That's some kind of a baking you have going on with here. And it's gonna be too much for a lot of people out there. Because you're obviously supposed to like all these given styles from the past and then have it with a retro-ish dish, as like a weird kind of a dinner combination. Like I said, some people are gonna love it, especially, I'm guessing, the older generation who grew up with all that stuff. I was never part of the punk thing going on, so that doesn't really do the trick for me. Speed metal most almost like a little bit hit and miss between the heavy and the trash and the other stuff. So that's not gonna work for me either. So what is left for me is really, are you in for a combination of heavy and black metal? Yes, if the answer is Morgul. But with Obnoxious Youth, it's just too much of too many things on one plate. And I'm gonna say it doesn't work for me. Now, obviously, you have to be checking this one out if you really think all these 4 boxes are being ticked in your head. If you like not death, but black, heavy, trash, punk, so forth, speed metal, gonna check this out. But prepare for a weird combination. Not for everybody. A little bit more simple, in fact, a lot more simple, is this one from United States. If I remember correctly, this is the second album from this band, quite new, but this is a band, or more like music, that could have really been coming out already in the late 80s or at the very least early 90s. This is old school death metal with a very boneheaded, very simplistic take. None of the riffs really here stand out or are exactly memorable. They don't really have hit songs, but other than that, they do their old school death metal in a very, very proper way. Meaning that if you are old school death metal fanatic, there's no reason why to check this one out. Now, the good side is, if you like old school death metal, you're kind of bound to like this one more or less quite a lot. If you are, however, looking for something original, it's gonna be a miss. The thing here is, these guys are adding nothing new to the mix, and as such, it can be a little bit of a double-edged sword, you know. In a way, you kind of like, yeah, it's nice that they don't have those weird gimmicks, they don't go off-road from their given genre, but they stick to their guns and they do what they do best. On the other hand, if you're looking for the next, say, Death or Cannibal Corpse or Morbid Angel or Obituary or D-Side, or the list goes on, you're gonna be ready for disappointment. Because this isn't exactly Legion. This isn't, Altars of Madness. This isn't really, Leprosy. So the thing here is, what does these guys after? To me, it seems like they want to do the next big thing on old school death metal, but they don't have the riffs or songs just yet. But in general, they do understand the genre, and it's gotta be worth for something. Especially if you had all those gimmickry bands or modern styles where you just mix core or dissonant stuff with all the great ingredients, when you just want to get your carton box of milk. So I'm gonna say, this is basically the carton box of milk. If you hate milk, don't go near it. But if you do like it, I mean, why not? Old school death metal the way it was supposed to be, pretty much of it. Talking of which, takes us to Germany. Temple of Dread is the one of those bands that whenever I see a new promo popping up, coming here and all that stuff, I'm like, okay, color me interested. It's not like the band has been really reinventing anything. This is old school death metal as well. A little bit older, I would say, than Maul here, because this is technically speaking a lot trashier, which is when you go back to 1980s with your given death metal. And when you're listening to this, I doubt you cannot think bands like Death and Obituary, because this is in fact where it's going. Vocal-wise, it's especially like the combination of Death and Obituary, because there's a certain kind of a vomit-like vocal approach to the growliness, which I really fucking love a lot. It's not your typical let's just go mumbly growl, but more like spit them out, vomit the vocals out, and it's really, really good. When it comes to riffs, I'm not really surprised if someone is going to call this death trash. But to me, coming from a little bit older school, I guess, I would say it's just traditional death metal. I mean, back in the days, death metal was pretty much like, crossing borders towards trash. Whether we're talking about Possessed or Death, Obituary, a lot of early days. Think about even early Cannibal Corpse and Morbid Angel once again. And we're talking about this kind of a combination. So before death metal kind of like decided to cut its ties to a lot of thrasher elements. It was very much present, and these guys fucking know it. Now, more good things are coming from this album. First of all, the production is really, really solid. It's exactly something that you kind of wish for this kind of album. Not maybe the reference sound of, think of Metallica's Black Album or some Rammstein Reise thing, but exactly what you're looking for, say, death metal album that has this trashiness among the things. And like I said already, the vocals are really, really great. Now, what it leaves for the songwriting part is that maybe they don't have the most memorable killer songs, but they do have a lot of killer riffs. And to me, it really does the trick. I'm thinking Temple of Dread might really be the new torchbearer coming from Germany in terms of death metal. Now, Germany has never been exactly the biggest country or the country what you're thinking about when you think about old school death metal. I mean, those labels or metal standards, awards, whatever, go to places like, obviously, United States and Sweden, of course, and of course, UK. Think about bands like Bolt Thrower, Napalm Death, and so forth. But Temple of Dread are almost like picking up the right pieces and figuring out, so okay, you're bored with a little bit too simplistic old school death metal, but you want that thrashiness, the old school feeling back into the game. And we're here for you. This is, in my opinion, one of the best death metal albums of this given year. Not to take anything from Maul, but these guys are just more energetic and more thrashy, which put them right on my map in a way that I want to put a stick on it with a star and say, check these guys out. I'm looking forward to see them live someday. I don't know when that is going to happen, and do I have the possibility to interview these guys, but I would fucking love to. Anyway, 3 different albums for you to check out, and links are of course included in the description box. Now do yourself a favor and check these bands out to figure out if they are your liking. If not, well, at least now you know a little bit more. But now go and enjoy Stay Metal.